I'm Kristin, and the 1002nd album is Of the Blue Color of the Sky by OK Go.
Hi, I'm Jeff Stephen, and you're listening to the 1002nd Album podcast. I spent 10 years going through the 1001 albums you must hear before you die, and now I'm asking people that are important to me all about the albums that are important to them. Enjoy! This is the 1002nd Album podcast. I'm Jeff Stephen, and I'm particularly excited for today's episode as my guest today is a massage therapist to the stars, a fantastic concert attending pal, and if I may say so, my personal favorite occasional Amherst Island radio morning show co-host. Please welcome Kristin Kelly.
Thank you.
So the album of choice today is OK Go's Of the Blue Color of the Sky. I said it right the first time. We'll see if it lasts.
That was well done. Very well done.
Nice. So my question for you would be, when did you discover OK Go, and how did your enthusiasm for the band build from there?
So I first discovered OK Go just after the video for This Too Shall Pass was released. I know of The Blue Color of the Sky came out sometime around 2010, and I think that the video for This Too Shall Pass was a few years after that, and I just found it's that video. If people are listening and they haven't watched the video, they should first of all go watch it right away.
Immediately.
And it is a video that is a giant Rube Goldberg machine that's set in time to the music, and it actually plays parts of the songs. And so it's an excellent video, and it's so entertaining to watch. And so I first discovered OK Go through that video, which is a few years after the treadmill video that, many other people found them. And I just realized that they were so entertaining, and as entertaining as the video was, that the song was actually really good too. And through that just sort of fell into the rabbit hole of finding their older videos and then sort of sticking on board to watch the new videos as they came out. Nice. That's sort of how I found them.
Nice. And I think, the treadmills was my gateway. So again, the visual was huge. But like you said, the videos are one thing, and I'd imagine most people would hear OK Go and think of those videos like the Rube Goldberg machine.
Absolutely.
And again, that's pretty non-controversial to say they make great videos.
Right.
But the one thing you mentioned as well is that when you actually listen to the songs happening in the background of those visuals, the visuals are only part of it. And so spectacular as those videos are, why would you say the band's audio recordings are equally, if not more important than their visual accompaniments?
I think that because the visual part is only one small part of the music, the video is this great visual accompaniment. But when you actually sort of sit and listen to the songs, I think the first thing with OK Go is their music is just so positive. There's this sort of underlying theme all through many of their albums about overcoming adversity and just, really, really positive messages. And even, at the concert that I was at about a month ago, they played a new song from the new album, and it's called Level Up. And it's all about, leveling up yourself. So the really positive messages in their music is something that I think that you don't necessarily need a video to take advantage of. Sure. And I also think they're talented musicians. Damien, who is the frontman for the band and does the bulk of their songwriting.
Probably writes the
songwriting is, not wrong, but also not what I meant to say. But he is just this wonderfully creative human being and is a complete wordsmith, and also just writes really interesting music to listen to. And so there's all kinds of layers to it. And I think that it's hard to separate one from the other, but I think that the music stands alone.
Yes.
In its awesomeness.
Yes. And the video is only that extra layer that takes it to the next levels it up, as
absolutely,
you say.
Absolutely.
I like it. This was the first OK Go album I've heard in its entirety. And I gather it's number 3 in the catalog. And from what I was reading, it's somewhat of a change in style for the group. How does this album number 3 compare or contrast with the ones that came before and the ones that came after it?
I think that their first 2 albums had a lot more of sort of like, when I listen to them, I hear a lot of, sort of Weezer or Weaker Thans type sounds in the album. And this one sounds a lot more like you can really hear that Prince is a huge influence for the band. So I hear a lot of that in it. It's a little bit more dancey. I would say it's a little bit more pop focused than that sort of angsty punk sounds from before. But it's less dancey than Hungry Ghosts, which was the album that came after it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's definitely a big change in sound, and really neat to listen to older interviews with Damien where he was talking about when they were trying to make the album. He said that their attempts just sounded like they were trying to cover themselves when they were trying to stick with that older sound.
Oh, okay.
Because they were saying that, there's this, worry that you're going to lose fans when you start changing your sound and start, messing around with different sounds. But yeah, he said they couldn't do it and sort of be true to themselves. It just sounded like they were trying to make an album that sounded like...
Trying to cover themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Where some might look at that as being, they're being consistent. I could see how they'd feel it's treading water or trying to repeat the past or that sort of thing.
Yeah, so, growth is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And I definitely appreciated this one, so I'm looking forward to hearing what came before and after as well.
You're in for a treat.
Nice. Well, if the names like Weezer and Weaker Thans come to mind and throw in Prince in there as well, that sounded pretty good to me. So speaking of all those that sort of melange of styles, my research constituted of looking at Wikipedia, of course. But I love the page for this album because the genre classification is listed as, and I quote, alternative rock / power pop / neo psychedelia / synth pop / indie pop / funk rock, and which is a pretty impressive composition of genres. Yeah. So definitely tough to sort of categorize them in one area. And speaking of Prince as well, it was pretty neat to see them venture into Purple Rain territory where I think more than half of the album's tracks ended up as singles at one point or another. But what was, I think, even more impressive is that of those 8 singles, none of them really felt repetitive or redundant at all. It didn't feel like, as you said, they were repeating themselves creatively from their previous stuff. It really was all over the map.
So many different sounds.
Yeah.
Right? And they nail them all. I think that's one thing that excites me so much about this band.
And are there any ones from the list in particular that jumped out at you?
I think my favorite track off of the album, and it changes from day to day.
As it should.
But I think consistently, I really love the song Back from Kathmandu. It's so acoustic, and the video for this song is really awesome. I think they had a GPS attached to them, and they wandered the streets of Los Angeles in a way that spelled out the name of the band, that spelled out OK Go, but they did it with an entire parade of fans with them. Yes. And so the people have instruments and some people are, clapping or banging sticks together, but it just looks like such a party. It looks like so much fun.
And this would have been like 2010, 11, so pretty cutting edge
Something
at the time.
Like that. Absolutely.
And I love that Kathmandu. I immediately, when I saw that name, do you remember playing Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Yes. Oh my
felt
goodness.
Like they were always... escaping to Kathmandu, I think that was the go-to sort of destination there. So that wasn't a bad association for me to have either. The ones, again, I love the opener WTF, how it jumped into falsetto right off the bat. And that sort of the 5/4 time signature, of course, beautiful in there. And you mentioned earlier, This Too Shall Pass. The one argument I put in favor of the video was when it does that, the cutout to the glasses.
Yes,
doing it,
it's so good. And I found really that This Too Shall Pass, and then it's followed on the track by All Is Not Lost. Yes. This album for me was such a huge sort of aid in getting me through the pandemic. And those 2 songs on, particularly dark feeling days, I would try and go and, drive somewhere in my car where I could maybe sit and see water and have the sun in my face. And I would turn this up so loud that my phone would be sending out warnings like every 15 seconds being like, please turn it down. Think of your ears. And I would just turn it up to like, ear bleeding level and listen to those two songs and try so hard to internalize those two messages. And those are two other songs that jump out as particularly good ones on this album for me.
And you've got to turn those up to 11 too.
Exactly.
The other one's just scribbling notes as I went through. I loved the hook in White Knuckles, the sort of the fuzzy sort of hook that it has in there. It's just
absolutely
just brilliant. And just and they're so good at the details too, with like, what's it? I want you so bad I can't breathe. There's those sort of church bells happening in the background. So it feels like one of those ones that you'll pick up on a new detail every time that they toss in. So.
Absolutely. And I love End Love, which is, I think, the song, I'm just looking at your notes.
Yes.
It's the next song on the album. And I really love that one because I feel like if I didn't know it was OK Go and you played it for me, I would completely believe you if you told me that song was like, straight out of 1984. Right? It's so synth poppy and it's fabulous. I love it.
And the 16th notes on the hi-hat, beautiful. And its follow-up, Before the Earth Was Round. I love that title too, just how it's that, like, and that's it too, where you said, like, they're poppy, they're catchy, but there's a real talent in the songwriting too. What's the singer's name?
Damien Kulash.
The sound writer of the group. So
that's right.
Just like that sort of detail where it's sort of alluding to a time that didn't actually exist, and so it's that, I love that bit of nostalgia there where he's talking about something that wasn't actually the case, but is still looking back at a time that people want to remember.
And where does one thing I don't know is, where does this album, where does it end? Because I have the what they call the extra nice version. I'm doing air quotes that you can't see if you're listening to a podcast. But what is the last song on the regular album?
That's a wonderful question. The one I listened to, it ended with In the Glass.
Okay.
So, but again, from my extensive research of one page on Wikipedia, it looked like there's versions also that had Louisiana Land in there as well.
Yes.
And so it feels like I'm only scratching the surface of what could be experienced with.
Yeah, the extra nice version is it's a fun rabbit hole to fall down. It'd take you a few hours to listen to it all, but it's so good.
Nice. And I guess the sort of summary question would be, of all the albums out there, why is OK Go's Of the Blue Color of the Sky the 1,002nd album that one must hear?
I think it is the 1,002nd album because I think it is such a great example of incredible songwriting, incredible musicianship. 4 people in a band who, as far as I can tell, they really seem to enjoy each other, and they're tight. They come together and make these really super tight albums. But again, sort of circling back to what I had said before, it's also just a super positive album. Yes. And I think it's really a feel-good album, and you can listen to it. And I know for myself, whenever I listen to it, no matter sort of how I'm feeling that day, it'll meet me where I am. And then it'll, bump up my mood points by, quite a number of points. And so I really like it. It feels like this, reliable and comforting, soft place to land where it's just so incredibly enjoyable for me.
I like that. And you saw them live, you said as well.
I saw them live.
And so details.
Oh my gosh, I wanted confetti and I got confetti. It was when I was leaving the show, I was up to my ankles in confetti. We had 12th row seats, so we were really, very close to the front of the show. And all I wanted, I had found a Reddit thread.
Yes.
And the topic of the thread was random places people have found confetti after an OK Go concert. And I just wanted so badly to be a part of that.
I need to contribute.
So I, it was lovely, getting back to the hotel after the concert and, sort of getting undressed for the night, and just massive amounts of confetti falling out of me was the most incredible thing. And so I literally have a few bags of OK Go confetti at my house.
A souvenir. I like
it. Makes me so happy. But the concert was amazing. Yes. It was... it was sort of everything I had hoped it would be. And of course, it just seemed to go by way too quickly. But I was so impressed at it was at a casino, so there couldn't be anybody younger than 19.
Right.
But even with that in mind, it was incredible the age range of the people that were at this concert. You know, there were people who were, you know, seemed to be quite old at this concert, and it was so neat to look around during the show, and everybody just had these giant smiles on their faces. And yeah, but it was incredible, and I can't wait to go again. And my children will have my head if I don't find a show that they can go to.
Because that was Niagara was as close as they came on this tour?
So it wasn't even a tour. This was a standalone little one-off show that was supposed to happen in May of 2020, and of course it didn't. Yeah. And then it was supposed to happen in December of 2021, and then it didn't. And so we finally got it this year.
Third time's the charm.
Right. But it's the only show they've played in, I think, 5 years.
Wow.
So, and somehow we were just so incredibly lucky that it happened to be in Niagara Falls.
And no signs of rust whatsoever.
No signs of rust. No, they were tight. It was so good.
Nice. Did any of these particular album tunes end up in the set list?
Oh my gosh, yes. The WTF was there.
Yes.
This Too Shall Pass. All Is Not Lost. Need and Getting. Skyscrapers. White Knuckles. I think that's it. I think, when I looked at, sort of the songs I really wanted to hear, Back from Kathmandu, I think is the only song that didn't make the list.
Yes.
So it was the only one. So, I mean, it's forgivable, I suppose.
And I guess if the catalog is so deep that they can't play everything, then that's a good problem to have.
I guess that's okay.
I suppose.
I'll forgive them as long as they play it next time.
Nice. But they just do seem to have such a great energy to them. And the one thing, I guess I shouldn't say the one thing, but I've showed their videos in class too, as in communications technology, just as an example of how to do a one take where they just press record, and then they've done all that work with the choreography and everything. And it's I love that commitment that they just we might not be professionally trained dancers, but we're having a ball doing it.
And did you know, speaking of showing them in class, they've got, I was telling you, I was chatting a little bit about this with one of Eli's teachers, and I had mentioned to him, and I try and mention it to my teacher friends, but they have a whole educational side, that's called OK Go Sandbox. Okay. And it is entirely full of resources for teachers.
Yes. And
it's all, there's all the STEM stuff, but then there's also a bunch of art stuff. They talk a lot about All Together Now, which was a song that they released during the pandemic, but then they're OK Go. So they took it and they made it into this giant project where you could sign up to get a cell to color and then send it back in. And they essentially made these animations of all of these. And so it's just different projects like that. And they address the science aspects, because I think at least 2 of them are actual engineers and computer scientists and stuff. And so they've got all of this incredible knowledge. Yeah. And so they have this whole educational side that you should totally check out.
That is excellent to hear. OK Go Sandbox. And that sounds like you mentioned with their albums how they don't want to repeat themselves. It sounds like with everything they do, they're constantly innovating and trying new things. And just the creativity is key. Because it's a bit of a misdirect, isn't it? The one guy who's always mouthing the videos, who's not actually the lead singer.
That's right. Which is so funny, but I love it. I love it.
It's a good commitment to that format too. But I heard the 2 of them. So I guess the one, the main guy,
Damien.
Damien, and the one with that's usually mouthing along in the videos. Tim. Yeah. So the 2 of them, again, extensive research done beforehand. But the 2 of them being interviewed, where they were talking about whether things were fact or fiction based on what fans had written about them. And so and they seem just totally articulate yet down to earth and just approachable dudes. So that's nice to hear that confirmed.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that I think lends itself to all of this, positivity within the band is those 2 guys, I think, have been best friends since they were kids, sort of 10 and 11 years old. So I think that, I don't know, I just think there's something that's so wholesome and lovely about, these two guys that have been best friends for most of their lives.
Nice.
And then, building this beautiful thing around that.
I like it. And with now, I'm learning an educational component too. So
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Excellent. I guess I'm convinced at least that this is worthy of consideration as the 1,000-second. And so I guess a huge thank you for coming today. Again, lovely to see you in person.
Right? It's so good to see your face. It's been a while.
Far too long.
And thank you for letting me just come and talk about OK Go.
Oh, my pleasure. No, that's the part of the beauty of this project is I've delegated the task of sharing information about albums, and now I've got new things to listen to too. So it's a win-win-win, I guess. But thank you so much, Kristin.
Oh, thank you, Jeff.
This has been the 1,000-second album podcast. Thanks for sharing some of your time, energy, and attention with us today. Take care.